Shall we start? Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatidam Gagana Sadarsham Tattvamasyati Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namah. Salutations to my master. I'm going to have a little talk here with you. The subject today the meaning of mukti. I don't know why I suggested this subject when they asked me what subject, because it's my fault. It's really not so easy to understand the meaning of mukti. But then, in a way, with the blessings of great being, it can also happen in a minute, in a second. Not me, I'm not referring to myself as the great spiritual being. Somebody who blessed me. Now, mukti, if you define the word, means freedom. Freedom is mukti. Well, the Vedantists call it moksha. The non-Vedantists, the yogis could be Vedantists also, in the Yoga Shastras and in Sankhya of Kapila. It is called Kaivalya. And the general term used is mukti. The Buddhists call it nirvana. The Sufis call it fana fil haq, which means everything is finished except the truth. So there are different ways of looking at this word mukti. Basic, fundamental word, of course, in Sanskrit is to be free from something. Mukto ho jaye. If you look closely, all through our lives, we go through periods of bondage and periods of freedom. But when we say mukti, from the spiritual point of view, it means ultimate freedom. To give an example, a child, all this is mukti, what I am explaining in different ways. A child who is inside the womb of the mother for 9 months or 10 months, whatever, is actually bound inside. Bound physically by the muscles of the uterus, bound by affection to the mother in some way, because the nutrition comes from the mother inside. No outside food is offered or can be taken. And then after this period of confinement, the same muscles which protected the child during confinement, discovering that the child is mature, push the child out into freedom. This is the first mukti that we experience in life as a child. When a child breathes for the first time, there is the sound of a cry coming. One wonders, like the Buddha said, if the child is crying, knowing well what kind of a world he is coming into, or she is coming into. But it's a cry of freedom and relief from being confined for 9 months inside the womb. This is the first mukti that we understand. When people commit crimes, what is the punishment? They are sent into jail. What is the meaning of a jail? A place where you are confined, where you don't have freedom to move, freedom to do what you want. you're behind those bars all your life till your period of confinement is over. Well, if it is for life, then for life. Imagine the state of a person who comes out, who is for some reason pardoned and sent out of the jail. How would he feel? How would she feel? This is another material, worldly, psychological experience of mukti, that you come out from the confines of a cell. There are people who were confined for 1 whole year in a cell and came out as yogis. Not very many. One example I can tell you. The great yogi Aurobindo, whose center was established in Pondicherry, the Aurobindo Ashram, was arrested and thrown into the, I forgot the name of the jail in Calcutta. Alipur, yes. Into the Alipur jail for 1 year, saying he was accused of being involved in the Baroda bomb blast. Now, before he went into the jail, he was working as an advisor to the Maharaja of Baroda, the Gaikwad of Baroda. There he met one Mr. Lile from Maharashtra, who was a yoga teacher, yogi. He spent just about an hour with this man. And then he learnt how to meditate from him. And he was when he went into the jail for 1 year, he was out of politics, he was out of everything, and he could get time to practice his yoga. And 1 year was over when he came out. He was no longer involved in politics. He became a yogi. Politics, you know how it is. People come and people go. After some time, nobody remembers them. Aurobindo is remembered even today because he became a yogi. The things temporary, they come, they go. So, what I'm trying to say is that even if you put a small child in a closed room, give the child all the toys to play. How long do you think you can keep the child confined? It will want to come out. If there is nowhere to go, it will open the window and jump out. Because of the desire for freedom, mukt, to be mukt. Nobody likes to be bound. And yet, this is what we all go into, being bound. Bound by different relationships. I'm not saying we should break relationships. What I mean to say is how we are caught up in, and today, we live in an imaginary world. You know how? Because much of our action, I'm not saying everybody, there may be exceptions. Most of us are governed by what we see on internet. I'm sure many people are here because they saw me on YouTube. You already formed a picture. Which picture is binding you? You're not free. Anyway, we live in a world where everything is, we are made to do things which we even don't want to do. How do I buy a particular brand of soap? Because every day I see it in the internet or on my TV coming and going, this is the best soap. And then it stops. Then I go to the shop. Now there are no shops, only malls. My hand immediately reaches out to that brand. So are we bound or are we free? Now, we have seen in history countries which have been governed by other countries. For instance, India, very simple example. We had the British for so many years, we had the Mughals for so many years, and when the British were ruling us, of course, I won't say that we were not comfortable. Many infrastructures were set up by them, okay. But there was this earnest desire to be free and be independent and be yourself. This brought about the freedom movement. And if you want to look at it, there was one man, we may today deny, we may say whatever we want, but there was one man who stood up for India's freedom and did not give up even if his life was in danger. And he did not become the Prime Minister, he did not become the President. On the day when the independence was being celebrated, he was in Champaran trying to bring about some kind of peace in the riots that took place. Such people, why I am saying all this, there are people who in the midst of all the bondage are free. And now this is relevant to us because we cannot expect to be free from all the things that surround us. But is there something by which freedom happens to us internally in the midst of all this? Can we live in, we cannot escape. All of us cannot take sannyas. We cannot run away from our responsibilities. And even if you take sannyas, do you think you are free? Does mukti come with changing a robe or shaving your head? Mukti is a state of mind. And that state of mind comes when we begin to understand, we cannot free ourselves temporarily. Now, when we begin to understand that all the influences in the world, of course the major influence, our own mind, is binding us and not allowing us to be free. The first beginning of understanding what is mukti is this. First, to understand that I am not mukt. We go around thinking that we are actually free. Are we really free? Aren't we bound? Is there a way to escape that boundary, that binding that is happening around us? Here comes our ancient teachings from the Shastras, which say yes, especially the Upanishad and the Gita and so many other texts which we may not know, which say yes, there is a way to be free while still living in this world, performing your duties, doing what you want and yet be free. So it all comes back to your own mind. It's the mind that bites and it's the mind that sets free. And the mind is a common factor in all of us. Everyone has a mind. Are we mindless? Everybody has a mind. So the tool is with us, our own mind. But first we need to realize that we are bound. If we think I am free, then there is no need to be free. Sometimes this bondage takes place even through too much knowledge. Sometimes through other attachments that we have. The kind of media which is exposing us to so many things which make us desire more and more instead of taking us deep within. But by the time we realize all this, we are already old. And one foot is in the grave. Too late. I'm saying there are wonderful ways by which the mind can be free right now. And being free, live in this world to the fullest extent possible and yet be free. And not stepping on somebody else's toes. This is possible. This is the ancient teaching that has come down to us and which was given to me in some way through Maheshwarnath Babaji, my guru, my father, my mother, my friend, my everything. So let's look at it in different ways. I'm looking at it now through the different teachings. There is the Vedantic teaching. Let's start with that. Advaita Vedanta, of which one of the foremost proponents was Adi Shankaracharya. The principle of Vedanta is very simple, although it's difficult to grasp, but actually very simple. It says that the world in which we live and the world that we see may not be as real as you think it is. It may appear real, but it may not be. At least a doubt can happen in the mind. Is it so? And in these teachings, the most important texts we have are the Upanishads. There are some Upanishads, I cannot go, this is a 1 hour talk. We might take up an Upanishad and go on for 4 days. Not that at the end of 4 days we'll understand what it is there, but still, somewhat. I'll give you one example. We dream every day, right? It's not my own. It comes from the Mandukya Upanishad, which has only 12 verses, shortest Upanishad that we can have. It says, and it is true, that human beings go through 4 states of consciousness. Not 4, 3. The 4th, everybody does not experience, but 3, which is the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep. Now the waking state, we all know, right? I hope everybody is awake. We all know what the waking state is. You can see the world and sense the world through our 5 senses and work in this world with our karma indriyas, hands, feet, and so on. This is the waking state. We all think, okay, we know this, there's nothing much to understand. Although, there's a question mark, I don't think we really understand it. Anyway, whatever it is. Then the interesting state is the dream state. Now what happens in the dream state? You dream so many things, good and bad. But when you wake up, nothing is there. What you dreamed is a dream, but you will not believe it when you are dreaming, right? Suppose a tiger is chasing you in a dream. It's so real that you're running for your life. And even after you wake up and look, you're wondering if the tiger is behind you, your pulse is still high, your heart is beating, you're perspiring. Why? Because it was so real. But in that dream, if somebody said, hey, this is a dream, who is going to believe this? It is very real. When you wake up, it's a dream. Now the simple question that Shankara asked in Vedanta was, who knows that now the state we are in, which we call the waking state, is not a long dream. Maybe we will be rudely awakened from it, because when you are dreaming, you will not believe it's a dream. Now also, if you say, oh no, how can that be? I am awake. Is there a state where you kind of are jerked out of this, and you say, my God, what a long dream. So, looking at this, the only thing that seems to be real in this is the witness. Dream has a witness. Waking state has a witness, and it is the same witness. And in deep sleep, also there is a witness, though we don't realize it at that point. Because when we wake up, we say, I had a beautiful sleep. It was so blissful. But I don't realize it when I'm sleeping. But therefore there was a witness, and it is the same witness throughout. So the Vedantic understanding is the only reality, when I say reality, absolute reality, not relative reality, is the witness. Now here is the Vedantic good news. And that is that witness which is in all of us, because we are all awake, we dream, we sleep, is not a separate entity, but the whole, the completeness which manifests itself through different centers. The reality is not confined to me alone. It's an absolute reality that expresses or manifests itself through all of us. Although we like to think that it's a separate entity. So when that separate entity feeling has gone, then there is mukti, which means there is only one, there is no two, there is complete stability, peace and blissfulness, which the Vedanta calls Satchidananda. And this, the Upanishad says, the Kathopanishad says, Nayam Atma Pravachane na labhya. This cannot be attained through satsangs or talks or lectures or anything. So then how is it attained? When we realize, through pravachana of course, otherwise we wouldn't even be listening to it, that freedom is built into us and we are binding ourselves through our own mind. If we can free it, then you see what freedom really is. It's not confined to you and me, it's the Purna, the Purnata. Somebody gave me a sweet to eat today, it's called Purnam. Now, the Upanishad says, Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. That means the origin of this universe is Purna, completeness. Now, when the statement Purnamada is said, I have no dispute. I say, okay, maybe. That is Purna. So, what does it matter to me? But I am not Purna. I am Apurna and incomplete. The whole of evolution of life is trying to make completeness out of the incomplete. I don't have this, so I am trying to get it. I feel I have not enough. I feel I am alone, so I need, the whole thing. I have this much money, but then somebody else has more, so I have to raise more. Becoming process. Why? Because we realize that we are not complete. Now the Upanishad says Purnamidam. This is also complete. How come? When the Upanishad says this is also complete, it's not talking about the personality or the mind or the body. It's talking about that witness which we refer to, who is in each one of us and which is not different but one. This, when you understand, then you understand Purnata. Otherwise, till death we are never complete. We are trying to become complete. We are trying to become better, but we never do, because if you did, we wouldn't try anymore. I'm not saying you shouldn't try. Just realize that this Purnata comes when the mind is not becoming, but at rest. Now, in the midst of the becoming, is it possible to be at rest? We are saying yes. That process is called sadhana. And when that is touched, then one is free. Now, does it come because somebody has a lot of knowledge? Or does it come when this little idea is understood immediately? Or it could also come through the blessings of someone who has experienced it in the present. This is also possible. So I'm going to tell you a story because I think soon people might fall into Sushupti, deep sleep. So let me tell you a story. You know what happens when the mind becomes quiet? Even listening to something like this, if it is not yet clear and purified, it lapses into sleep, which is quite normal. Because if it was clear, it would have gone into samadhi, otherwise it will lapse into sleep. So let me tell you a story. There was a great scholar, very great scholar in the south of India, called Kavyakanta Ganapati Shastri. He was called the jewel of poets, Ganapati Shastri, who had read everything on the subject of moksha or mukti. Whatever we think is the subject that would lead you to that, he had read, he had understood. He had done the Vedas, the Upanishads, Agamas, Tantra, Sri I'm specially mentioning Sri Vidya because suddenly some people pop up in the airport and say, "Can you give me Sri Vidya?" Anyway, Sri Vidya, everything. He knew everything that one would say is part of the curriculum to understand the truth. And yet he found that there was some barrier, some invisible barrier, which he could not overcome. So he was searching for different, wherever there was a yogi, he would go there and bow down. Please help me. There is some barrier I cannot understand, it has to be broken. Then he went. Somebody told him in Tiruvannamalai, on the top of the mountain, there is a young man sitting there, middle-aged person. Nobody knew. Ramana Maharshi, all that came later. His original name was Venkatamna. So somebody is sitting there. Just go and try, maybe. So he went there. The story is that when he went there, this person, Maharshi, Ramana Maharshi, I'm not talking about any other, was sitting there. You know how he's with a small cloth, and his eyes were open, not closed. You will hardly anywhere find a picture of Ramana Maharshi with eyes closed, because the inside and outside is the same. And he was looking up somewhere without blinking. He waited for a long time. Somebody else would have said, "What is this nonsense, I'm going." But we must give it to Ganapati Shastri that he sat. After a long time, the eyes narrowed down and looked at him. He was waiting for that. Plus, the one hand was raised like this, meaning what? So the Ramana Kendra people came to invite me for a talk today. I said, "What shall I talk in the Ramana Kendra?" Maharshi never talked, hardly. Why should I go on? So anyway, so he looked at him and he did this, meaning what? He was waiting for this signal. He started. All his life, what all he did, whichever things he had practiced, everything came out almost like a verbal diarrhea. Look, whole thing. And then he said, "Now what else should I do?" In Tamil, of course. Ippo enna seiradhe? Interesting, Maharshi looked at him and said, in Tamil, I'll translate, "Konja neram summa irukka mudiyuma?" Can you shut up for a minute? But you must understand that this man had gone through everything and was matured enough to receive that Shruti from Ramana Maharshi immediately. The moment he said that, he got it. And he said, "I got it." So, what I'm trying to say, that it happens when the mind becomes absolutely silent. That is the beginning of mukti. Otherwise we are caught up in words, in pictures, in experiences. While in this world you cannot stop it because all your indriyas, your eyes are open. Everything is open, so it's difficult to avoid. And yet, if we figure out that this freedom or mukti that we seek is nowhere to be searched but deep inside us, when this is found, then we are free. This is the process of mukti. Now, this is one way of looking at it. The Buddha said something more severe. I personally believe that Buddhism is a monastic religion. For a layman, it's very difficult to practice. The first sermon of the Buddha said, please don't think Buddha is something different. Look at the posture of the Buddha. It's called Padmasana, lotus posture, which is an ancient posture that has come down to us, is not? Well, he rebelled against some practices, that is different. So, the first sermon. Now this is severe. We cannot in day-to-day life practice, but at least we can be aware of it. He said, desire is the root of all sorrow. How many people can live without desire? I mean, some desire or the other. It's not that we should live without it, but we should understand the fact that it is the reason for becoming. When the becoming ceases, there is only that which is. Plato said this in a different way. He said, there are two eternal things. One is, I-S, and is never becoming. The other is not, but is ever becoming. The is what we look for. So, what did I say? Last? Sir, somebody? Buddha said. Desire is the root of all. This is what happens if you are free, you forget words. Desire is the root of all sorrow. Then, what is nirvana? Freedom from sorrow for all mankind. Now, what does that mean? Put two and two together. Nirvana is freedom from sorrow for all mankind. Desire is the root of all sorrow. Which means, unless one is free of desire, one cannot have nirvana, which is the Buddhist terminology for mukti. So, unless one is free of desire, now the thing is, desire, to be free of desire is not the natural state of mind. The mind always has desire. If it does not have desire for the world, it has desire for mukti. The mind's quality is that it wants something to desire, it cannot stay away from desire. Even if you try hard, you may either go mad, end up in an asylum, or you may become a psychological problem in the house itself. Because why? You want to be... So, what is the solution? Understanding mukti, what is the solution? Solution is to attach your mind to something so overwhelming that all the little desires of the world are not so important anymore. This is the way. Now this is where the teachings of devotion or bhakti come into the picture. Where a person is so fond of his deity, or it could be like Guru Nanak said, Ek Satnam Omkar, there is no deity but there is only the Supreme Being. You are so attached to that you seek your freedom in that, and that attachment frees you from everything else. And in the end, when you realize that and this are not different, there is no attachment left. This is the way the great devotees, the bhaktas, some of them not even educated, they said, our only desire, they didn't say we are fighting desire for mukti. They said our only desire is to have darshan of the Lord. That desire was so overpowering that it took care of all other desires. They lived in this world, they did their karmas, but the minds were there. Now, the question people ask is this possible that we live in this world and still keep our mind centered in yourself or in the deity? Is this possible? Yes, it is possible. People have demonstrated it. Human beings like you and me, we can do that. That is the message I want to give to everybody. It's not confined to somebody who is living in a cave or somebody who has changed his robe. I'm nothing against people change, but need not. While we still live. Now, So how does the yogi look into this? In India, it's interesting, we have 6 darshanas, Shad darshanas. And each of these darshanas look for mukti, looking for mukti, or finding salvation. I have described little bit of Vedanta and little bit of Bhakti. The literature is vast. yoga. Now, yoga is also darsana, although mostly it comes from Sankhya. It's a darsana by itself. Now, how does yoga darsana look at it? Patanjali, whose text is the standard textbook for all yoga practice and theory, defines yoga as yogas chitta vritti nirodha, which means yoga is the removal of all the distractions and the opposite thoughts and tensions of the mind. If this can be done, then the mind attains peace. For that you don't have to go anywhere. Short periods of solitude are very good, I must say, because then you don't have anything else to worry, you can sit down. And some people live in such houses also where there is a lot of gardens and trees and so on. So you don't have to go anywhere. Vanaprastha can be done in the house. So, once in a while go to such a place, a quiet place. If you don't have one, go somewhere else. But don't go to a place where people know you. Impossible. My greatest problem is that. I must say I am not mukt. Wherever I go, somebody comes out of the woodwork. And you see, sometimes I say no, but they won't believe it. So, go to a place where no one knows you, stay quietly, eat simple food, at least for a few days, meditate, do whatever spiritual practice that you can, and then you will find at the end of it that there is some. Now I don't know what you will do with your phone and your laptop, but anyway. So, when you find that there is peace in this, then when you come back, you carry a little bit of peace back to your work. And gradually you become stabilized in that inner peace. When you are stabilized, then you are moving towards freedom. Freedom from pain, basically freedom from sorrow, because you begin to experience your inner being. You can call it God, you can call it Atman, which is an all-pervading supreme reality whose quality is Satchidananda. When you say Satchidananda, it means that which is Sat, which means the reality, in contrast with that which is not real but we think is real. Chit meaning it is of the nature of consciousness, it's not a physical object. And Ananda, its intrinsic quality is happiness. Human beings will never be free in sorrow and pain. Happiness is what they seek. And they think that if I get this and be happy, I'm free. It doesn't happen, it goes on. We are saying, turn in within. The happiness that you seek, for which we do all the circus, is here inside each one of us. If we can, focus on that, then we have found the way to mukti, to freedom. Now, is it easy? It is not difficult. Is it difficult? No, it is easy. Why? Because it's a change of attitude, basically. You know that there was a great weaver saint in India, in Banaras, called Kabir Das. He brought this out very beautifully in the story of the... Well, if anybody is here who are waiting for me to say something about Kriya Yoga, sorry, I'm talking about Mukti, even from Kriya. So, what did I say? Kabir Das. Kabir Das talked about a deer called the Kasturi Mriga. You know what? Kasturi, musk. A lot of us do musk. So, the musk deer lives in the Himalayas. It's still there. Some are there, most of them have been. It has a little pouch under its belly. During a certain season, kasturi, musk is produced. There's a beautiful fragrance in the air. And the poor deer, not knowing the source from which the fragrance is coming, goes around all over the forest, putting his snout into thorny bushes, bleeding, not knowing that this fragrance is coming from my belly button. Kabir said, this is exactly the problem with us. We seek for happiness, satisfaction, freedom outside, while all you have to do is turn within and it is all in here. Now, if you say, well, this is theoretical, you need to practice a bit to figure it out. Sit quietly and look within. Thoughts, of course, will come. Thoughts will come and go. Don't bother. Sit. This is exactly what Mr. Lile taught Aurobindo in Baroda before he went to jail. He said, sit. Close your eyes. What do you see? He said, thoughts. He said, every thought that comes, cut it with your own thought. So he cut it and cut it and cut it and came to a point where there was nothing. And Lile went back and he went to jail afterwards. And there he practiced it regularly till he became a true yogi. So, there is hope for everybody. Mukti is not something that you need to do the great tapasya and figure out. Mukti, tapasya simply means heat, from the root tapa, which means heat, which means everybody is swimming along with the stream. Someone gets brave enough, courageous enough to say, I stand up and I want to swim against the stream. Which means, when everybody seeks happiness through the senses, one person rarely gets up and says, let me seek it within. Maybe it's here, I can't find it here. I find it for a short, then it disappears. Again I find one and it disappears. Let me look within. When you look within, you find that what you sought was right here. We were searching everywhere for it. And this is the Atman, this is the Self, the Supreme Self, a spark of the Supreme Self, which when once discovered, the human being is mukt, free. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
Ah, thank God, I'm mukt. No question answers. So I hope I said something reasonable, which, yes or no, madam?
Thank you, sir. We extend our heartfelt gratitude and pranams to you.
Wait a minute. At the end of every pravachan or satsang, we have to say, Om Shanti, 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 may there be peace.
Thank you, sir.